Hello, and welcome to episode 12 of the Speaking Challenge, the 5 minute speaking challenge, where have challenged myself pretty much every day to speak to a camera, record myself for 5 minutes, just to kind of start building a personal brand, kind of get more familiar with being in front of a camera, kind of flex those muscles of talking in that um, more high stakes environment where it's recorded and it's not just random conversations. Today I thought about talking about kind of my music journey. As you can see, I'm in a studio, I'm an indie musician. It's weird how indie, it stands for independent, but it's now its own genre of music. It's a pretty whack thing, but I consider myself to be an indie pop artist, maybe bedroom pop, which is funny because this used to be my bedroom. Um, but yeah, it's one of those things where you look back and you see all the signs, and it makes sense really to see the path that I've taken. Pretty much the earliest memories, my parents put me in like one of those little schools that teach you like just percussion stuff, playing recorder, all that kind of thing. I remember one of the main influences was we always had a piano in our house, and one of my earliest memories is I would just go onto the piano and I would just like press the buttons and then press the two and go down and go and back. And I used to leave the bedroom, not the bedroom, like the front door open so all the street could hear what I was playing. This was like as a 4-year-old. And I used to just like making the patterns and playing around. And to me, it sounded like I was making something cool. Then, so pretty much this is all thanks to my parents. When I was in year 7 in England, so I did recorder lessons and piano lessons. And then in England, we went to this little like school evening meetup, and it was pretty much a room filled with instruments, like any instrument you could pick. And my older brother picked a guitar, which was like the best decision to make, was to play a guitar. I decided to pick the clarinet. And then so I proceeded to do clarinet lessons, and then played in the clarinet band I played in a band in England. I played in the school band in Australia, and then more school bands in different schools and like big orchestras and all that kind of stuff. And then got to the point where I thought the clarinet was lame. So I was like, I need to play the cooler instrument. So then I moved to saxophone. And the weird dynamic with being taught instruments is that it still feels like school. It feels like a chore. And I would play my instruments, but I would be reading the sheet music, and it just kind of, and I get my homework, and it would just feel like schoolwork. Where at the same time, I would go and play the piano, and I taught myself how to play the piano. So purely from YouTube, and at the same time then started to teach myself how to play guitar as well with YouTube. So nowadays I only really play, or I mostly love to play the guitar and the piano, but I know the least amount of technical stuff about those two instruments. And I am 10 times better at playing those instruments, the ones that I taught myself, than the clarinet and the saxophone that I actually had lessons for. And it was purely just from having actual fun and doing it on my own terms, learning it for me and not for kind of my parents maybe or for something else. But that's the 5 minutes. But in the end, I actually have heard the statistic before that it's like not the first and second instrument that a successful musician goes to. It's usually the third, which is the guitar for me. And now my guitar is like what I use mainly for my performances. I've got an acoustic here, and I've got a electric over there. And I was also gonna the other side, kind of how I progressed away from the guitar and these instruments was, and one of the main things I've learned that's been able to make my music career give it the most leverage really, is learning the software which I use, which is Ableton. My first introduction to softwares was, I have this very vivid memory of back in England, like probably around age 10 or 11, I went to this university and they had MacBooks, which is, I'd never heard of MacBooks before, or like the Apple computers, never heard of it before. And they, for some reason, don't know why, at this thing, they got us to play on GarageBand. And I remember making a song for the first time ever, just randomly at the school and on MacBooks. And it was like one of the most fun things I'd ever done. And so for years after that, like my family friends had a MacBook and I'll try and get them to let me make some music on there, and no one would do it. It was like his work MacBook, so it made sense. But then in around year 12, when we were studying for exams and stuff, I needed just an outlet. And I figured out that my mom has a MacBook, so I went on there and I figured out that I could plug it into the electric piano we had and could control and record MIDI into it. And there it just went off. I literally started making beats, and it was like fun. And this was during like the most stressful time of school, and I was able to use it as my outlet. And I enjoyed it so much that I enjoyed that so much, and I hated the exams so much that I was like, if I went to uni to do engineering or whatever, I would literally be doing 4 more years of this school that I wasn't enjoying. So I managed to get myself to go to university, and I bought the software and I started playing, and I got the MIDI keyboard. And one of the best things is that I learned how to use this software myself. I taught myself from scratch, not even YouTube videos with this one. It was just like purely learning. And now I've used it for almost probably like 7 or 8 years now, to the point where I find it kind of funny to look from like retrospect, maybe from someone watching me make music, and I'm actually just sitting here going like coding. But yeah, and then since then I play gigs all over the place. I've managed to take my gear, and I've done a season in Japan, and I played a lot singing there. Then I went and sang in Greece in a bar in Ios, and I'm going back there in June this year. And so it's kind of been a cool long journey of just music for almost 20 years probably now. But yeah, that's my speaking. Thank you.